Welcome in, get yourself comfortable. We're going to go through some of the basics of building in Enshrouded. We can't build until you have placed the flame altar. I'm sure everybody already knows this, but I want to make sure everything's covered just because somebody's going to say, how do I even start building? You are also going to need to craft yourself the construction hammer. This is effectively how we access the game's ability to build. If you are on console, you need to press the trigger to come back out of the build menu. If you press B, it is going to undo build actions instead. I know that could be a little bit annoying, but I'm saying that just in case somebody is watching this on console when this eventually does come to PlayStation and Xbox. You may notice that when you first come into this menu, you're unable to build anything. We have this menu here. It's telling us that on the right hand side we can select some materials, but it's telling us that we have no materials. Back to your bench. The way the building works is we actually need to construct blocks. So we're going to turn materials that we have found within the game into blocks that can be built with. So I'm just going to go ahead and convert some stuff right here. And I'm going to give you a few places where you can get a good mixture of blocks early in the game that don't require too much processing for you to use. The first thing you can do is head south, which is back towards the sanctum thing that we spawned in, but we're going to head towards the cliff. Once you've gone far enough, you're going to find all of this stuff sticking out of the cliffside. This is flint. The good thing about mining this is it's going to drop you stone and flint as you mine it. This is important because this gives us access to like 3 materials, a higher level of ammunition later on in the game, and just in general is a good place to start when it comes to getting yourself some materials. This vein runs quite deep. I'm going to stay here and mine just a little bit so you guys can see. A few minutes later, you can see I've been hitting at this for quite a while, and we have loads of flint left, plenty of flint, plenty of stone, and this will regenerate after around 1 in-game day after you've mined it all out, so long as it isn't within your borders. So we have an infinite source of flint and stone there. I mean, you can get stone from all over the place, but a good place to start your mining journey so that you can get some materials together. Another fairly obvious material is wood, but something that isn't obvious is that if you hit these brown trees, these ones are actually going to drop you resin. This is going to be important in many recipes. So when you are out and about grabbing your wood so that you have even more materials to build with, make sure that you are in fact targeting the brown trees as well, as this is quite important. You should also target the beehives whenever you see them. Yes, sometimes they spawn bugs. They can be a bit annoying to deal with, but the wax is also a very important material, especially if you want to use candles. And we're going to go over what this does for us in a moment, because we'll be able to make some extra light with it, and that's going to count towards our comfort value, which you'll see once we have this building finished. So I'm obviously going to cut a few trees down now. In between the trees, if you see small saplings that can be harvested, you're going to want those as well, as this is how we create our string. The twigs are good for arrows, but the plant fiber itself is used to create the string, which is obviously going to be a binding material. And if you come just a little bit to the north of where the starting home is, we'll find that we are now in the Enshrouded area. I am not entirely sure if you've been in here before, but you can see that we have a timer at the top, but it's not the safest place to be, but it's also not going to kill us straight away. The reason we're coming here is so that we can get some of the shroud wood, which we get by chopping down the trees that are still in here. This is technically completely optional, but these probably give you the best and cheapest wood texture that you can get for a fairly decent amount of time. So spend a few minutes in here if you want a wood texture that looks a little bit nicer than just a bunch of sticks stacked on top of each other. Once you feel you have enough resources or your timer's running a little bit low, if you want to get back to base a little bit quickly and you're on a solo server, something you can do is return to menu and reload the game. This will return you straight back to base and give you a fresh day to build on. Go ahead and tag the repair bench, as that's going to repair all of your tools in case you don't already know that. And now we're ready to start building something up. First thing that we want to do is get a foundation built. So you can see in my little house here, we have a floor, and we need to get something like that built up already. We're going to go into here, and I'm going to go with a stone foundation for this one, just so that it looks a little bit different. Come back over to the workbench, make yourself some blocks of whatever it is you want to make your foundation out of. And something that I'm going to recommend here is to make sure that you put your hammer next to your blocks. There's a reason for this. If I come into my hammer now and I put my menu on, if I bring up this menu and go to foundations, I should now be able to place myself a stone foundation wherever I want. I can raise this up if I wish to. I can place it almost anywhere you can see. And something else that's kind of cool, this is not necessarily necessarily stuck where it is. If we break this down, it's not going to instantly destroy everything within the base. So if you wanted to raise this up or put it inside of the house that you're about to build, you could destroy this and then rebuild it on top of the foundation. I'm not really going to put that much effort into this because I'm building a base somewhere else right now. You can do whatever you want with that, but I'm going to recommend in general that you keep your first home fairly basic. I have another video that I'm going to be working on directly after this one, which is going to be the best location for a beginner base when you're just starting out. If you are looking forward to that, let me know. But I'm going to recommend that we go maybe 3 out. I mean, you can go with whatever shape you want. You can see it doesn't really take all that much stone anyway. And I like to just have, as you can see on that one, just like a little lip that comes out. And one of the cool things here is that you can see if I place a full block, that takes 256. If I place half of one, it takes 128. You don't have to use the whole block, and the game does adjust based on how much of the actual material you're using to create the shape that you want. Now, the reason I recommend having the block next to your hammer is this. If you want to get into the granular side of really shaping this up, you can place the blocks individually, but also you can take the blocks off individually. The way that this works is you can see there we have set and remove, and when you see the block go on there, you should see that one of the sides of the blocks is highlighted. This means if I come into this corner here, because I want to take one of these blocks off, I can aim the colored side of the block to take away the piece that maybe I want to get rid of. If I say want to shape this out a little bit, I could do something like this. Or let's say I wanted to make a step, I could take off this top layer right here. And now I can have stairs that go into the building. I haven't pre-planned this, so hopefully this works out okay. But I'm just showing you guys that that is how that works. This is also going to work just fine on materials that it's not even the same material of. So as long as you have a block highlighted, we can even do it to a block that isn't the same block. And you can see that refunds me the block that I just took out there. So if I want to just put a window in, as long as I've got a block equipped, I can do that. And then if I wanted to, for example, I could make a windowsill right there with the blocks that I just kind of took out. All sorts of cool little bits that you can do with that. Real nice. But I don't feel like the game explains that particular part all that well. We're going to move on to walls. So we're going to work our way up the building. And for that, I'm actually going to use Shroudwood. Hopefully I got myself enough. So I'm going to go ahead and make some Shroudwood blocks. You could continue going in stone if you don't care too much about it. You could have some just logs on top of each other. Or you can even go with flintstone, which isn't too bad. Or you can even mix and match whatever it is that you would like to use. It's going to work pretty much exactly the same. We can go ahead and select a shape that we want to start using. I assume most people are probably going to start out with just a flat piece of wood here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a window in the middle. And so you may be like, hey, these windows aren't really aligned up very well, right? When you're building this, and let me just kind of get all of this aligning up where I want it properly. And you can see down in the bottom right there, we can actually change where it snaps. But let's take this off, for example, and take this off, because we kind of want this to look a little bit differently now. Let's go ahead, turn that around, and I'm going to put the window in the middle instead. And then we could, of course, change to the smaller side like this. And I'm kind of hoping some of this overlaps because I really want to fix this with you guys. I want to show you all the kind of what might go wrong as we're going through this. So let's purposefully put a big chunk right there just to show everything can be fixed. Doesn't really matter if it overhangs a little bit. And then from the front, we end up with something that looks a little bit like that. We missed the top a little bit. Oh dear, look at that. We can come in and we can do that. Okay, and you see when we go over it, it only takes a little bit of the material, which is fine. We might switch this smaller one so we don't cover up the window. And then, oh look, we come out this way, and that's overshot a little bit. So that means, as we said before, we just come to our individual block thing here. We can trim all that off. Now that the building's looking like it's a bit more square, which is kind of handy, we can go ahead and we can start sorting this part out. So let's get these thinner ones in here. We're looking all right. We've got the bit that comes out a little bit forward. We're probably going to want to put ourselves a door in here eventually. I imagine that's probably going to be the case. I'm actually going to leave these little lips in because I think they add a little bit of character overall to the shape of the building. So now let's move on to the roof, which has its own set of blocks. If you went and got the flintstone, then you already have some blocks that can be used. Let's take a look at what we have available right now. you should be able to make stone shingle roof, which is going to go pretty nicely with the wood that I've used right now. Or if you wanted to go something a little bit lighter, a little bit brown, you can go with the plant fiber. This is acquirable from pretty much everywhere. And those are realistically your only two options early on in the game. So I'm obviously going to go with some shingle roof blocks. Let's get a good amount of those on the go. And the same thing is going to work here. You can see on my original build here, where I was just kind of messing around with stuff, I came out a little bit further. I was a little bit more aggressive with the front of the house, which meant that I put a little roof thing on there. You're going to find that clipping things is a good way to get things to fit. And of course, if I wanted to fix that up on the inside, I could take that off. So that is going to be the method by which you'll be able to get everything to fit together perfectly. But for now, let's start building a roof, shall we? So we come to the roof shapes down at the bottom, and I'm sure you could probably like make something out of stairs if you really prefer that shape, but I don't know if I like the blocky shape of stairs. And what I like to do is do the corners first, because then you can marry everything else up afterwards. Now, this should end up being pretty easy because it's a fairly small building, but just make sure that it's lining up properly with the top. I recommend having the snap function on, because it should snap to itself a little bit easier that way. And you'll see, let me just dump onto the top here. Generally speaking, if it's fitting together correctly, it ends up with these little things on the top that show you that it is linking properly. You can see that my roof is mostly finished, and if you're not too bothered about things sticking out, you could probably just stick a door in there, be pretty happy. But let's go ahead and fix that. For that, we're going to come on out. If you're on controller, left trigger. Let's get, obviously, somebody's going to be asking how we double jump. This is one of the skills you can get. If there was a skill I was going to tell you to get first, it's double jump right here. It's pretty easy to get to as well, so make sure that you make a beeline for this. It makes everything easier. Yeah, I think I'm just going to take these bits off and just have the roof come down over the door. That should be pretty easy. That should be easier to do just because of the way that I've built my house. And it's likely that when you're doing that, it's going to end up with a couple of gaps. And all we need to do, back into our roof tile, you'll see that when it comes to placing it, it's going to take like 3 blocks. That'll fix the roof. Looks like we've got one little block left to get rid of. That's going to annoy me if I don't get rid of it. And there we have it. We're looking pretty good. If we go inside now, it should say sheltered, and the comfort level of the base is starting to rise. When you are both comforted and warm, you'll start building up a positive effect on your character. So we need to fix up being warm. And I know this was edged at just being building a base, but we are going to finish this off. The next thing that you want to do is get on over here and build something that is going to get you warm. This is going to be in your fireplaces, or you can come into your crafting menu and get a campfire. This will get you warmth, but building the actual fireplace, as you can see, is going to give you +2 comfort. We can also sit at this and cook. So for a little bit of stone and a little bit of log, which you should have, we're going to go ahead and we are going to build a fireplace inside of our little cottage that we've now built. I'd recommend putting this somewhere fairly central, as it seems to have a bit of a range to it. And there we have it. Our rested stat is now rising. And to keep that rising, all we need to do is use the comfort decorations that we can now see on the crafting bench. So if we go into the crafting bench and we look at our comfort tab, we'll see that we have lots of different things that we can be building that will increase our comfort level. So for example, for a little bit of string, we can build ourselves a bed. So we should do that. Let's go ahead and place this little bad boy in here. Now we're on comfort level 7. Let's see what else we can have that's nice and easy. Let's go ahead and do something as basic as have a table, put a chair to it, and then we'll have a bench on the outside. I've also moved my crafting table here, so it's a little bit more local. Let's go ahead. We're going to have a little table, place our little chair, and then give ourselves a little bench on the outside. Maybe even have a second one around the corner, just in case somebody wants to sit in the shade. And then we need to finish ourselves off with some light. Now, if you listen to me and got yourself some string and some wax, this should not be an issue. You should also have been getting some resin, which means if you defeated any of the zombie enemies in the shroud, you could also build yourself some torches right now. A bit of cloth and a bit of resin will get you some torches. Let's go ahead and illuminate our base. Now that gives us all of the comforts we need, but of course we are probably going to want to get ourselves a door. This is going to require metal scraps, so I really probably can't do a proper wooden one, but we can do ourselves a little crude wooden door with some string, so let's do that. And I think we built 5 windows, so I'm going to go ahead and get some of those in my inventory as well. So first up, let's put the door in, see how this ends up fitting. We may need to do some adjustments, such such as around the top. Look, and we can have it right at the front. Doesn't even have to be connected to anything if I don't want it to be. Let's have it be kind of inset a little bit. In fact, we're going to place this from the inside. That way we can see exactly where it is. There we are. Get in and out. Probably would be better as a proper wooden one. We only have basic materials right now, which is the whole point of the video. And then I'm going to go ahead and I want to fill that top bit in, but it looks like something is betraying me right now. So I'm going to take the door off, and I know that I want to fill in across there. There we go, that fills that in nicely. Go ahead and get the windows in. There is a trick that I could show you guys with the window, but I want to save that until we get into a more aesthetics / we are building something a little bit nicer than just a little shanty at the very beginning of the game. And to finish off, what we're actually going to do is upgrade the bed. When you have built your first original bed, what you should find is now when you look at beds, we can go across one. If you look at the top, we can now press across. And with a crude mattress in our inventory, some wooden logs, a little bit of string, which is really easy to get, and some animal fur, which drops from the goats, which is all around us, we can go ahead and we can get that upgraded. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to reset it so this daytime, just in case you need it spelling out to you. Rams like this one are what are going to drop us the animal fur. So we just need to defeat a few of those so that we can get 4 of that. We've got a little bit more just here. Very nice. So we get 4 of that, a little bit of string, and we should now be able to upgrade our bed. To do this, all we need to do now is go up to the bed, and you see we get the option to pick it up. We get this with pretty much anything in the base, so we can go ahead, pick anything up that we've placed that we want to. And so now we should find that we can go ahead and build a crude wooden bed. Let's go ahead and place that down in our nice little hovel, and we're going to find that we now have a nice comfort level of 12. If you don't know, the comfort level increases how much stamina you have, and because we've got it to such a good amount, it's going to last 17 minutes a time, which is very nice. In addition to that, when it's nighttime, if we lie down in the bed, time will speed up and we can skip over the nighttime without having to keep on resetting the game.